Like cooking, everything has a recipe.
A set of instructions to follow in order to gain a certain result.
Music is no different.
Be it ingredients for a dish, a set list for an amazing show,
Or a release strategy for a successful launch.
these are all recipes.
Hi, we're your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brandon.
Come and join us in our kitchen as we go through the Music Maker's Cookbook.
Let's get cooking.
Welcome to the Music Maker's Cookbook, the podcast that helps independent artists cook up recipes for success in the music industry. Yeah, let's get rhythmic.
That was really rhythmic.
Yes, it was.
I liked it.
I'm trying something new. Why not?
That was good.
Yeah.
That was good. When we do a podcast about music, we should be rhythmic.
For at least to a degree, yeah.
Yeah, I would say so.
Today we've got a fun episode that's all about spring cleaning.
Yeah, it's
Time to-
springtime.
Yep.
Springtime.
Do you enjoy cleaning? Do you enjoy spring cleaning?
I do. I need to also, because I was thinking about it yesterday. I need to clean out that monstrosity back there.
The mic locker?
Yeah, I put a lot of boxes in there because I've gotten a lot of boxes with the past couple weeks, and I'm a box guy. We talked about this last week at the studio. All three of us were talking, with Colin, and we were like, yeah, we're box guys, and I need to get rid of my boxes. It's time to part ways. But the boxes are so cool sometimes.
They are.
They actually do a great job with the boxes.
Plus, like, when you move, it's just so nice to actually still have them that have like the
Exactly.
perfect inserts. Like when I moved my
Exactly.
studio to my new location,
Yep.
having the foam inserts
Mhm.
and the bag for my monitors
Yep.
made me so much more happy
Oh,
to
and
like
it's
transport it.
Exactly. Because then you don't have to rely on anybody else trying to make a design that'll maybe fit universally,
Mhm.
and I don't know. It's just there's some peace in mind in boxes. And then when you sell something, you can just put it in the box.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's worth a little bit. I mean, obviously it's
little
not
bit
like but it's like the perceived value is a little bit better. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, this guy takes care of his stuff.
Yeah, and it makes
Yeah.
it look like it's a higher quality piece of gear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's legitimate because there are some fakes out there of some of the stuff that we might buy, like mics and stuff.
That's
a
true.
big thing,
Yeah,
So
that is true.
So definitely got to be careful. But boxes are so cool. They're so well
Mhm.
designed, especially in our field. Like they do a good job with designing boxes. So I don't know. I'm a
well,
box
they
guy.
definitely design in a way that like tickles the brain of
It does.
engineers.
It
Like us.
does. Yeah. It definitely reinforces their branding and the quality of a product that you're getting.
Mhm.
So yeah. So I do need to do some spring cleaning though. It is time. I've gathered too many boxes. I'm looking at one on top of it right now.
Okay.
But I'll actually need that one because if I need to send back to Stream Deck, it's perfect. So shipping.
You never know. Yeah.
You never know. So there you go. Lesson in boxes. That was today's episode.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks
What
for
about-
watching.
What about you, Sean? Are you a spring cleaner guy? Are you cleaning as you go? I mean, all the above.
I go in waves. I do like. I usually pick up after I go, but obviously things go through the cracks.
Yeah.
And I try to clean like once a week or once every other week.
Yeah.
Of like just hardcore clean up whatever needs to get focused on. I have a bunch of boxes like you were saying too in my studio. They're kind of all just packed in a corner right now in the storage area in the back.
Mhm.
But when the live season starts, we start moving PA around. That's going to kind of get in the way. Because like on top, it's a 16-foot ceiling at the studio.
Yeah.
And our drop ceiling is 8 feet
Mhm.
up in the front offices. I'm trying to think of a way that I could like put stuff over the top that you could like not necessarily walk on, like it's sturdy enough for that, but you could at least get some extra storage.
Yeah,
out of it.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. And like, I'm sure you won't have to worry about any like fire compliance or anything like that, right?
Not really.
Because like you'll have so much space in between the actual top of the ceiling,
Mhm.
the 16-foot, and then your actual 8-foot that you'd probably be fine too. So
Yeah.
you could keep all your boxes, and that's sick.
Exactly.
We like keeping boxes.
Yep.
Yeah,
Just a
dude.
small area up front. I can just like pile them up to the ceiling and make it work. And
Yep. Oh man, I love boxes, dude.
I
I
didn't
love-
expect this conversation to go this direction.
It's so good, dude. Like just
Oh,
in
man, I
terms,
love
just
boxes, man.
organization stuff,
Dude,
like
folding cardboard is my shit, man.
dude, it's the shit, dude.
Oh.
Dude, it actually tickles the brain a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
It just fits just nice.
Yes, dude.
Just nice.
And then putting packing stuff in something, also dope, because then you can get creative with it. That is so sad.
I'm learning so much about Brandon.
I
Right
have a sad life. Just so
Welcome to
sad.
the Music Maker's Cookbook, where Brandon has an existential what's the word?
What?
Existential crisis. Existential crisis.
Yeah. I'm definitely reevaluating and reflecting on myself right now. Thank you for bearing with me and hearing that.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else is my therapist at the
It's
moment.
okay, Brandon. We're all
You
here
can't
for
bill me though, so. But you and I were at a studio last week.
Yes,
and,
we were.
And the owner was very nice enough to have us come through, give us
Mhm.
a tour and stuff. And we weren't really able to talk with him all that much. I talked with him a little bit the day before, but we weren't able to talk that day. But
Mhm.
we were going to visit like another colleague of ours, and he had toolboxes for his mics.
Mhm.
And I'm like, dude, that is such a genius idea, and it looks so good. Toolboxes look killer.
Oh my god, especially when they're taken care of well.
Yeah. And like there's a point to this because it's actually going to lead us to our first point that we're
Mhm.
going to talk about today
Yep.
with spring cleaning.
They
But,
just
like,
reorganized.
Exactly. But the organization that it had and like
Mhm.
the feng shui that it kind of gives, well, teaser with what's coming up, I'm
Mm.
going to announce it. It just like, it's like perfect because then you have the security, but you also have the cleanliness of how it looks too, and then the sturdiness too.
The only thing I don't know about though is it was in his master recording room, his big live room.
It was.
That's a lot of big pieces of sheet metal.
Yeah.
Did he deaden them at all? Do they vibrate?
I don't know.
I'd be
They were on
curious to know.
casters, so
That's true.
I don't know if that would help at all. I mean, maybe. I would imagine sometimes it would make it a little bit more noisy, actually, possibly, especially if you forget to lock one of the casters, you know?
Yeah.
And then it's jiggling around, right? But I just thought it was like a really cool way.
It is really cool.
I'm like, man, maybe one day. I mean, I have the locker here, but
That locker looks real nice though.
it does.
Like,
It looks
fit.
like it belongs, right? Like a toolbox somewhere around down here would kind of be out of place.
Maybe just a quick reorganization, run through it, quick spring cleaning. And,
exactly. And I'll feel a little bit differently about it. Maybe we'll put some lights in there.
Of course. Brandon, it wouldn't be you if you didn't have lights.
I know. I swear to God, there was a point to this. First thing that we're touching on today, right, with spring cleaning, is reorganize your room for feng shui and creativity purposes. I got really inspired when I went to the studio the other day. I know you did too. We talked about it for like 2 hours before we started today. So yeah, I think that's a good way to start it off. I mean, move some stuff around, get new lighting.
Before I completely agree.
Yeah.
I just want to say before we really dive into it, I want to say like we're talking about spring cleaning today because it is spring.
Yeah, we do have to introduce it.
It's we had a little bit of our introduction dialogue, kind of fun conversation host thing that all podcasts do. But no, we're diving into spring cleaning today, and the focus is because it's going into spring. It's kind of a social thing for people to really like as it warms up, as we get more energy.
Yeah,
you can start cleaning. You put that effort into making the space around you how you want it to be.
Yeah,
and this is a perfect time to take that motivation and apply it to your music career, not just your house and the spaces that are immediately around you.
Yep.
So we're going to be talking about, cleaning up your space, your instruments, your whatnot, but also talking about how ways you can clean up your digital spaces and go through it and update it and do what you need to do using that spring clean motivation.
Yep, absolutely.
And follow through and make it really, really productive and beneficial to your music career.
Yeah, because like ultimately this can help foster creativity, but it can also help your workflow out a lot. And I'm really talking like a lot about maybe the digital side of things, right? Because as creatives in the music industry, we create a lot of files, and we're not always super diligent about organizing those files in a certain way, especially if we're trying to work fast. So if you're able to go through and kind of clean up and tidy some stuff up on the computer, not only will your computer maybe run a little bit better, but you'll be able to find stuff quicker and move a lot faster.
Oh yeah, because there are scientific experiments and studies that talk about how clutter can lead to clutter in the mind as well.
Absolutely.
So having a clean space or a workspace that at least fits your personal needs and having places in a position that they belong in can really benefit your productivity. And
absolutely.
We're looking to make a living in music here, so we need to have as many of our spaces as organized and as tidy as we can. So when we sit down to focus on them, we just have the task in front of us.
Totally. And I think the most interesting part is I've seen a lot of other people's spaces too, and like some of those spaces are extremely messy, but they work very well.
Yeah.
So
depends on the person.
Yep, exactly. It depends on what kind of person you are and what your tolerance is, and exactly how you work and what you need as inspiration, right?
Yeah. And even if, but real quick, if you don't mind, even if you think that you are function well in messy spaces, I work okay in messy spaces. I thought it was, I knew everything is, it's my space, it's organized how my brain wants it.
Yep.
My brain's all over the place. So like this still is there, yada, yada, yada. About 6 months ago, I went through this whole thing of like, nope, I'm going to try this feng shui thing.
Yeah.
I have this rack drawer. Anything I don't know where it goes in there.
Yep.
I'll like organize it later, but I just want to try clearing it out as much as possible. So I have nothing but my desk, my coffee mug, my work stuff.
Yeah.
And man, that first week afterward was like the most productive week I've had in years.
Yep. There's something that goes, that triggers in the brain that's like, ooh, this is aesthetically pleasing. I feel good and clean, and I want to do something. Yeah. I don't know how it works, but it's just really interesting how that happens. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry, didn't interrupt.
No, you're right. We don't have like a specific place to send you to or like a deep understanding of what feng shui is and like how spaces can affect your work life or what the general rules are. This is going to be a weird place to send you, but like, there's an episode of Style Theory by Matt Pat that he talks about office spaces and goes into the science behind feng shui and how things organize. And he goes through the rules of like the earth tones, the balance of whatever, facing the door, the window, natural light, all that shit. He goes into the science behind it.
Yeah.
So that's the video that I've seen that I think has good information to look at if you want to dive more into
Great
feng
place
shui.
to point. I have nowhere to point anybody to. So it's way better than what I would say. And I mean, a lot of the time, I feel like for me, feng shui also comes from like a lot of experience of setting up rooms. Like you and I have gone through many different iterations of our setups over the years. And it's just about finding the balance that works for you at the time, right? You do with what you can, with what room that you have and what space that you have. And then you end up spending a lot of money and time, you know.
And get a lot of lights.
Get a lot of lights and shifting stuff in and out and seeing what works for you and what is the most fostering for creativity. Yeah.
That is the best thing that I walked away like the most impressed of Steve's studio.
Yeah.
That we visited.
Yeah.
It wasn't his studio. It wasn't the lighting room. It wasn't the mix room.
Yeah.
Like that was, you know, it is what it is.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous, but it is what
Absolutely.
it is. I was like, man, he's got an office that's got natural light that's separate from it. So like when he's in his mix room, it's just the board and his audio gear. Like it's just
all focused.
Creation.
Yep.
Like the way I currently have it set up is I have a small live room and I have the mixing room, but the mixing room is also my office. So my desk has my papers, my reminders.
Same.
I do my emails and all that stuff on the same location. I'm like, man, it'd be so nice just to have an office space so I can really just, when I'm in here, I'm just creative versus like, oh, I've got a reminder to send this email and do that and like being scatterbrained.
Yeah. No, I totally agree because like you have to have a certain space to do certain tasks, right? Once you start putting all the tasks into one place, things start to get a little jumbled because it's like your mind doesn't know where you want to go exactly with it. And you have to be very focused and very diligent on telling your mind, no, we're actually going to work today. Or no, we're going to work on the business today. Or no, we're going to open up that task manager or whatever the case may be, right? So it's the way that he has it all separated too. Like it's an actual barrier between where he's working and his office. Like you have to walk at like a decent distance between the two rooms.
It's opposite sides of the building.
Yeah, exactly. And just having that extra gap between the two gives you that time for your mind to adjust by the time you get to the office that says, I'm doing clerical administrative work versus I'm going to be creative in the back now.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's that whole setup. I'm just super impressed. I love it so much.
I'm already thinking like when Jeff retires, I'm going to talk to James about like, hey, how much would it cost an extra,
dude, right?
Like how much would it cost me per month to take over his office?
Yeah,
space?
dude. Yeah, dude. Man, I think it'd be so beneficial. So beneficial, dude. Yeah.
That's enough of us talking about like spaces and whatnot. We started off saying, yeah, we're going to be talking about spaces a little bit, but more about all the other stuff and like what you can do that aren't necessarily feng shui, but apply those principles of spring cleaning to other stuff. We haven't even dove into that yet. So what are some things that you might want to think about while you're in the spring cleaning mode that could be really beneficial to artists?
Yeah, I think top of mind would be socials is a good place to start. We built up a lot over the course of a year and on our socials, or at least you should be putting out a lot of content. And some of that content might not even be relevant to what you're doing these days anymore. That, or it's like clogging up the feed, or you're doing some kind of thematic theme with your overall page itself. I'm thinking mostly Instagram with this one, but anything, right? So it's probably best to go through your social media and vet what you actually need up still and what you can archive, not delete, archive. I wanted to say that real quick, but yeah, start with the socials. I think that's a great place to start.
Oh yeah. And like specific things you can look at when you are spring cleaning your social medias and whatnot is looking at your social links. If you're linking to other profiles or different platforms that have your songs or interviews you've been on or your website or whatnot, make sure the links are fresh and they're new. If you've released a new album or two since the last time you've updated or a new single or whatnot, replace the old link to the old album and put your new music in there. Get the freshest stuff out there. If you've got an old profile pic, make sure you have your new style in. If it's especially if it's different in tone or has its own kind of story vibe to it. One of the most drastic changes from album to album I can think of is 21 Pilots, especially going from Scaled and Icy to their new one that they're coming out with is from the bright pinks and baby blue to this red and yellow. If they still like are posting a bunch of content that has the red and yellow color scheme, but they still have their old Scaled and Icy profile pic that's like pink and blue, it doesn't match the tone of the content that's being put out there. So you have to make sure your social, like your posts match your profile and it all goes together. Or if you have a YouTube channel, like your banner is now updated or whatever it may be. On top of that, your bio, your descriptions about what you're about. How many times I've started to look at the bio of artists when I find a new artist, I scroll down and like, okay, well, let me learn a little bit about them. So many times it's like, this is an emerging artist of 2018. Or they're killing the scene with their first album. Like, I'm listening to their third album. When's the last time the bio on Spotify was updated? And this goes with the websites and everything. Like, if you've got new information, make it prevalent. So this is the time to really dive in and do that.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I haven't updated my bio in actually quite some time. I mean, I on my website I did last year because that's when I built it, right? But yeah, you're gonna want to keep adding things that show the work that you've done over the past year, 2 years, whatever. Especially accolades that you've gotten along the way. Yeah, you have to update it, right? That's a part of your biography, right? So update it and that's another thing too is like sometimes it can be cool. So it's like if you have like somebody huge that's like, I don't know. I'm just throwing this at the wall, like Chance the Rapper, and he still has aspiring artists in there. That's kind of funny. Like, we all know that he's like an actual artist, right? But once you get to that point, though, like, I mean, change that aspiring artist to being an artist. Like, that's an affirmation too within itself, right?
Yeah.
Tell people what you are, because you are, right?
Yeah. And just like a quick straight up example of it is with my music, I'm starting this new project to showcase what we are doing here at Music Maker's Cookbook as a place you can go to and see it in a kind of applied form. Painfully Glad is the artist name. And I hadn't updated the bio since 2021. And now I've got a whole new series, like a concept album coming out that I'm going to waterfall method release, that each song tells part of the story. And I've been working on mapping out how it's going to go and whatnot. And I need to make my bio relevant to, hey, there's things happening here. This is part of the story. Like, this is the new focus of the artist, because the old songs were a different me, a different time, a different focus, a different kind of therapy, a different kind of whatever. It's new now. There's a new focus on it, and I want to make sure that when people come to me, even if it's something small, like in the back corner or whatnot, if they're curious and people get curious, they want to know this information about you, they can at least be like, oh, this is what it's about. I relate to that, so I'm now intrigued and I want to stick around, versus like, oh, this is not relevant to me. There's no intrigue there. There's nothing grabbing the attention.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you want to learn more about any social stuff that you can do, go check out episode 32 where we interviewed It's Ernie. That was an awesome interview. That was, I mean, one of my favorite interviews. We've only done 2. Both have been my favorite interviews.
They've both been great.
So I can't really say that yet. And we do have some possible interviews coming up too. Yeah. Sean doesn't even know, but we're going to.
We're talking about this afterwards.
Yeah.
No, I think this is your first episode, thank you for listening to us.
Yeah.
If you want to really get a good episode to get a lot out of what we do, definitely check out our interviews because the people that we talk to know way more than we do.
And they're really cool. They offer so much value. It's insane. And we're just super happy to have them on and blessed to do so.
Oh yeah.
Super great talking to them. But
that's a great episode to check out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Definitely.
Link will be in the comments if I remember.
Exactly. Yep. Episode 32. So yeah. So then I think that moves us up along to EPKs.
Yeah.
What can we do for our EPKs in spring cleaning?
Real quick, if you're not aware of what an EPK is, it's an electronic press kit. It is just a resource that you give to people in the industry. It's kind of like your resume for people within the industry to share information, get gigs, showcase your accolades, yada, yada, yada. If you really want to learn about EPKs and get more information about what you can specifically do or actionable steps on what to do to improve your EPK, check out episode 12 that we did. That's all about EPKs. But diving into some specific examples real quick here, recent gigs, an EPK is about to showcase, the whole point is to showcase the things that you've done.
Yeah.
So if you haven't updated your EPK in 2 years, it doesn't look like you've been doing any shows. And if there's a venue owner who is paying or taking a monetary risk to have you at the show because they need to recoup it, they have to pay the bartender, the door staff, the mixing engineer, the stage crew, all that. They're taking a financial risk to have you. They want to know, hey, you've been doing this and you have a following, so I will actually probably recoup my costs on this.
Yeah.
If you haven't updated it in a year, 2, 3 years, and it looks like you haven't done shit, they're not going to hire you.
Exactly.
Or at least it's going to be really hard for you to get that gig. You have to scramble to get no, I've done this.
Or you're not going to get paid as much for the gig.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to undervalue you.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing you might want to check on your EPK.
Yeah, absolutely. The second thing is definitely update your numbers. And not only does this go for your phone number if you change it, because you need your phone number on there to get contacts, but overall numbers itself, like listener base, right? Amount of shows that you've played or general average attendance for your band,
a big one.
right? Yeah. Make sure that you update those because those change all the time, right? And you should be gathering those metrics somehow, some way, shape, or form. It's way easier to do it online. But if you're doing like attendance stuff, you need to be writing that down at every show, like if you can, and being able to display that number and what you can kind of bolster at the venue itself will definitely aid in how many gigs that you kind of get along the way too, and how much you get paid.
It can be the difference of getting the job or not, just straight up.
Absolutely.
So
great social proof in that.
Yep. I don't remember the episode number off the top of my head, but
curveball.
But we have a whole influence series, and social proof's one of them, so check that out.
Absolutely.
A next thing that you can go through and kind of clean out and reorganize and structure, especially moving forward, is websites.
Yeah.
If you have a website, which you should, check out episode 46 of our podcast where we talk all about websites. Actually,
literally the one that just came out last week, so go listen to that. It's not going to be that far to scroll down and press play, so go listen to it.
Pretty much, yeah.
I just bullied everybody into it. That's so sad.
We just let it autoplay to next.
Good point. Yeah. Especially, you're doing it descending.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
But we talk about the difference, like why you should have a website, the perks of it, the downsides of it, what it should include, links, yada, yada. So that's more of a deep dive into what it is. But if you have a website, and it's time to re-clean it and restructure it. Same thing as with socials. Test all of your external links.
Yeah.
Make sure it sends people where they need to go, and make sure it has links embedded that go to recent things that you've done. If you've been on a podcast interview, if you've been at a radio show, if you've got an article written about you, if you were performing at a festival, like have links to your festival promotional stuff or whatever, because that really helps with SEO.
Yeah.
And it validates your website in the eyes of Google and all that. So make sure these links work, so that they're not going to dead ends, or they're broken, or you accidentally like added a 6 at the end of it and now it goes to something weird.
Yeah, a fraudulent website.
Exactly.
Make sure you're spelling things correctly. Don't go to bonappetit.com like we said last time.
No, we said don't go to bonappetit.com last episode.
Don't go there. But I mean, you're right though, because like if you take somebody to a website that's fraudulent, or that's a whole nother issue, right? If you're pointing people towards that's like an issue, right? That's like an actual, could be a legal issue. But not only that, but if you're pointing somewhere that like contains a broken link, you just come across as unprofessional, and like you don't take this seriously. And then not only that, but you also waste people's time, so they're less likely to give you time in return, right? So it's a whole like thing where you need to make sure that you're up on your external links a lot. I will also add to this though, that make sure that you check every page. You can go to every web page of your website, so there's no broken internal links to your site, because there's nothing worse than being taken somewhere else that you don't want to go, right, on your website. And especially if it's like a portfolio thing, and if that's broken and people can't get to that, then it's like, okay, what's the point at this point?
Yeah,
right?
Much.
So just make sure all of the links are working both externally and internally. This one we talked about a lot last week, but we're going to talk about it again today. Update your upcoming shows, because it makes you look busy, right? Yay. And people can come out and find you and spend money and hang out with you and have fun and make content for you by taking photos of the gig. And it just pays dividends. Just make sure that you're keeping up on it, right? Yeah. We all like to hang out and have fun at a show. And people will be looking for that on your website. So
yeah, if someone wants to go to one of your shows upcoming, if you don't have it on the website, I mean, they might not be aware of it if they go to your website for updates. On the flip side of it, if you don't have an EPK, your upcoming shows and previous shows is what shows potential venue owners or promoters or whatnot that you are working, and gives them kind of an idea of information about, hey, this is how much we're performing, this is how many people we get, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, and
that can also be the difference of getting a job or not.
Not only that, though, it also shows that you're also taking the gig seriously. So you're making a special event for that special day at their venue, so they feel like you're putting in your half of things, right?
Yes.
They're not the only ones promoting, but you're also doing the promotion too, right? And people can find like more information about that. I've seen a couple of clients recently of mine struggle with that, with venue owners being very adamant about making Facebook events and stuff like that.
Which you should be.
Why not at this point, right?
Yeah.
And there's definitely been some owners that have been getting on top of that with people. So that's a really big thing people are pushing right now. And it's just to bring out more business, it's to bring out more people, and that helps both them and you. So make both sides happy and just do it.
Yeah. And real quick, if you're curious about some steps you should do for show promotion, or maybe what you can do to give yourself an edge over other bands that make you more desirable to venues, episode 14, all about show promotion. Check that one out. We have a whole series, episode, I think 12 through or 11 through 16. That's all about live from the start of it to the end of it. So you can listen to those if you're want to know more information about that aspect.
Absolutely. The last one we have for websites is new merch. And this one's interesting because you have some leeway with this one, in my opinion. If you have old merch up there, I would argue that it's better sometimes just to put up, and like it doesn't represent what you're doing anymore, right? It's just better sometimes to put up new merch in the works or something, come back in a certain date, so you set an expectation, right? Yeah. So not only does that give you a deadline, but that gives an expectation to the person who's visiting the site to come back and buy merchandise from you. But if you're still running old prints of merch that you don't want out there anymore, just put that website up and say, hey, we're working on new stuff. Come back in July of 2024 and we'll have brand new stuff for you, right?
So this is where the creativity of business kind of comes in, that I'm going to go on a quick rant about.
Please.
If you have old merch and you don't want to sell anymore and you're working to releasing new merch, there's a couple of really cool things you can do. You can have a button underneath saying, working on new merch. If you want to be the first one to grab our limited merch, law of scarcity, here's a link to join our mailing list, and we will email you a link to this new shop once it opens.
It's great.
Boom, gets people on your mailing list. You have direct contact to your fans where you can send out direct information. We talk about mailing lists in a lot of these episodes, so go back.
Multiple episodes.
Yeah. So any episode you listen to, there's a 50-50 shot whether or not we're going to talk about mailing lists. Boom. Now you've got them in your mailing list. You've got a direct contact feed to them. You can give them updates directly whenever you have new merch sales or whatnot. And 2, it shows like the scarcity of, hey, it's a limited drop, so make sure you're in there first. It's incentivizing them to get in there early on. This is part of influence on, we go over this in our episode about influence, about scarcity and all that. On top of that, what you can do is you can keep your old merchandise photos up and just replace the image with the same merch image, but put a red cross over it and say sold out.
Yeah.
Hey, our merch is desirable. It sells out. If you want to grab our next drop, get this now. Even if you have new merch and you want to update it, you might want to still include your old merch and say sold out or whatnot.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
100%.
And then if you get enough people asking about it, you can say, well, click here to join our mailing list. We will do a limited re-release of this shirt. In order to buy it, you have to go through a link here so we make sure we know enough orders and we're only going to sell as much as we buy. Things like that. You can get really creative with it and use these rules of
scarcity.
Influence.
Yeah, and scarcity and influence. Yeah, absolutely. Scarcity is a very powerful one, and that's a great way to do it. 100%.
So you have a lot of fun with this for merchandise.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Great points. Great points. So yeah, then that takes us to more physical things, right?
Let's go completely different direction now.
So we were kind of like more digital with all that. Now we're going to go and flip the script a little bit. So
we're
first
going physical,
first.
We're going musically, feng shui.
Exactly. There's nothing better than a new, fresh set of strings or skins on some drums, you know? So it's time to get that done if you haven't done that in a while. You should really be doing that monthly at this point, especially if you're playing out a lot or recording a lot.
Yes.
But obviously there's some variance in that, and depending on what you're doing. But if you haven't done it in a while, now is your time to do it. And we're reminding you to go do that right now.
Yes. And more so than that, not just replace new strings. Have you oiled the fretboard in a while?
Oh, man.
Have you reset it? Have you resanded the frets? Do you have any digging in on your hands?
Have you set up the guitar in a while?
Have you set up the guitar? Take it to Guitar Center. I mean, they know enough of a job to make it better than it was.
Or learn how to do it even better. Learn a new skill.
Better.
Then you'll save a bunch of money over time. Your first couple setups might kind of suck, but after that, you'll get the hang of it real quick.
Or do what I do, make friends with an 80-year-old hippie who's been setting up guitars for 60 years, and he'll take real good care of you.
That's perfect. It's a good excuse to make a new friend. Your new hippie friend.
Maybe he's not 80. I think he's like 60, actually. He's been doing it for 40 years. Do you know Greg?
I don't.
You don't?
Oh, no, I know of Greg. I know of Greg. Yeah.
Greg's
Never met him, but I know of Greg. Yeah.
Get yourself a 6-year-old.
Get yourself a Greg.
Super nice dudes.
Get yourself a Greg.
Yep. He's been doing music for his whole life.
Yeah.
And they're quick, and it just feels so butter smooth with it. And if you find the right guy, like he can they'll know how to like replace the built-in, not pickup. What do acoustic guitars use?
The piezo pickup?
It's not piezo. It's like a resonance pickup or something that's like lives inside the body. Anyways, they can like replace those units or replace your put new pickups in.
Yeah, totally.
Or add a mute toggle or a 5-way switch. You can get blending options or whatever. You get a guy, you can get some crazy stuff.
Yeah, because I mean, there's an art. So like, when you go to Guitar Center, this is a small rant.
Go for it.
This is a small rant.
I already had my rant today, so go on yours.
When you go to Guitar Center, you are transactional in terms of your setup, right? You give money, the guy gives you a technical setup, and you get it back. So it's all done by the specs. It's all done by science. But there gets to be a point where somebody is so good at doing these that it actually becomes art. And surpasses the technical aspect because that's already done right and naturally. But then you start getting to the, I made this small adjustment so it'd feel a little bit better, but it'll still hold its intonation or something. That's where it gets really fun, and that's where Greg's come into play.
Yes.
So get a Greg. Or become a Greg. And it takes time to be a Greg.
It does.
Just saying that there's an art to it. And if you're willing to learn that art and go down that path, not only can you make money by doing it, but you're going to save a fuckload of money in the long run because you're not going to have to pay anybody else to do this.
Oh, yeah. And if you do it for other artists in your scene, that builds a law of reciprocity, and it just goes on and on and on. But
wow.
Yeah, redoing your instruments, if it's like for woodwind instruments, recork it or oil, make sure the cork is good. Make sure you grease the valves on your brass instruments.
Yeah, good point.
Whatever it may be.
Make sure there's no mold building up in there.
Yeah,
because that's disgusting and can be health hazardous. I have a saxophone that we got from I don't know, a family friend or something way long time ago, and they gave it to us. It was just all mold inside. And we were like, dude, do we even restore this, or do we just toss it?
What'd you do?
We still have it.
You still have it?
Yeah,
you even cleaned out the mold?
No.
Dude.
I have no idea where it's at though. I would have to
do not open that case, because when you do, you're gonna start The Last of Us.
I'm gonna have to put on a mask and a hazmat suit, dude, and then we'll talk, in a clinical room, you know.
Similar thing happened with a K guitar that I bought. It was in the background of the last two episodes if you want to see it. 1964 K copper tone value, whatever. and the whole case smelled like smoke.
Ooh.
So I just had to like air it out and get the guitar smelling good and whatnot.
Dude.
But it's like things you got to do maintenance and whatnot. Take care of your instruments.
Absolutely.
They're really, really important.
Yep. That's what bridges the gap between you and the music. So take
That's
care
what
of it.
separates you from like as a professional versus a hobbyist.
Exactly.
As well. So
exactly. Totally agree with that. 100%. 100%.
Moving on from that, back from moving from instruments into like kind of more music industry, music business practices.
Absolutely.
Go to your music contacts. And by that, I mean like the information of any sort of band you've worked with, band members, any promoters, venue owners, studio owners, et cetera, et cetera. Anybody in the industry, podcast hosts, radio hosts, anybody in the industry, go through the contacts, rewrite them down, relist them out, be like, okay, this person's still doing this. This person's in a new band, do that. This person's starting his own project, do that. This guy started his own studio, contact that. This guy retired, do that. Make sure, refresh your contacts, because one, what that does is it makes you curious about people who are also in the industry, where you might be like, oh, I wonder if this guy's still doing it. Let me check him out. Oh, he's got his own new studio now, and his rates are way cheaper. But I work with him. I know he's really good, so I'm gonna go with him moving forward. Or if this guy's got his whole new band, I wonder what his band sounds like. Oh man, that's right up my alley for music wise. Maybe we could share a ticket with him. It causes you to do your research and get caught back up on other people in this industry.
Totally agree. And
also, it puts them back to top of mind. So maybe if you're thinking like, oh man, I just wish I knew a good promoter so that I could like have this awesome show set up. Maybe you already got the guy. You just don't think of him at the moment. So go through your contacts and refresh them in your mind. Very, very important.
It's very important to do. Something that I need to do for a couple of people too. I know listening, you're probably like, oh man, how do I do that? Well, go through your text messages and see when the last time you texted that person was. And if it's been a year, if it's been at least a few months or something, shoot them a text. There's usually never a bad time to reach out, especially if you're doing it very casually and non-invasively,
Don't hit somebody up right away like, hey man, work.
Exactly.
Be like, hey, how's it been? Keep it casual. See what they're doing.
Shit, I was going to say something.
While you're thinking about it,
just
a quick life hack. If you want to make it easier for you and kind of automate this to a degree, CRMs.
That's what I was going to say.
That's what you're going to say?
Yeah, that's what I was
let's take away.
Yeah, no, you go. Because you introduced it better than I was going to.
Okay. Well, a CRM is a client relationship management software. It connects to your email, and it can do a bunch of stuff like set up leads, set up reminders, connect to your calendar, yada, yada, yada. Really, what it does is it keeps track of the people that you are involved with professionally, personally, however you want to run it. And what you can do is you can set reminders for specific people to refresh whenever you interact with them. Like, hey, remind me to contact this person in 4 months.
Absolutely.
Remind me to contact this person every year. Remind me to contact this person every couple of weeks.
Yep.
And you can categorize, this is their website. These are their socials. You can embed their links. So you have an easy way to go back and click through to keep up on them and see what they're doing. And it makes it really, really easy to stay on top and keep these contacts going.
It's so interesting because there's like a science to this actually. Like when you break down this topic of actually just reaching out to people and talking to them that you worked with before in the past or your contacts, right? We called it cleaning out the cupboard. There's a science to this because there's a variance to like how in depth you get with this. You can send a text message, right? And say, hey, how you been? Right? That's a little bit more personal. You can give a phone call, which is either good or bad depending on the person's communication style, right? So you have to personalize these. So this actually takes some thought and some time.
But that also makes it even more useful because a lot of these, like I use Pipedrive for myself, and there's a notes section, so I can put responds well to phone calls. Doesn't respond well to phone calls. Message through email only, text only, whatever.
You'll learn that as you work with the person. Because if they're not answering the phone, then they're not a phone person. I'm not a phone person. I will answer the phone because like that's what is required of us. But I'm not gonna go out of my way to call somebody, or I'll text them beforehand, right? And make sure the call is planned, right?
Schedule it.
And you will be able to put that in the actual CRM itself, so when you go back and it's been a while and you don't remember the person's communication style.
And you can set a reminder for the specific type of task. You could even set a reminder of like if it's going to be a lunch meeting, like, hey, I want to meet this person in person or email or whatever.
Go to their favorite restaurant because we all talk about food with each other. So let's go to the favorite restaurant that I remembered to write down because I'm an adult, right? And I want to make sure that like I'm hitting everything that is important to this person. Right? Not only that, but like even when you go on Instagram, when you just do the simple swipe up and you have just the emoji in the story, like you're technically making contact with that person saying, hey, dude, this is awesome. I
still
support
here.
you.
I'm a reminder.
But I'm not gonna like reach out to you right now because I know you're busy. But I'm seeing what you're doing, an awesome job. Right.
And now you're top of mind.
Elicit, exactly, and that elicits stuff. Hack.
Boom.
This is my hack. You ready?
Go for it.
There's one day a year that is special to everybody. One day.
Their birthday.
Their birthday.
Of course, you'd bring this up again.
You keep You keep a calendar of people's birthdays, right? Not only because
I know I forgot your birthday this year, Brandon.
Dude,
I'm so sorry.
Stop.
I'm
No,
such a bad collaboration partner.
No, not even. It's not even that. Stop. You keep a calendar of birthdays, right? And you set a reminder at 9 a.m. on the day of their birthday, and you get the reminder, and you text them happy birthday. Hey, I hope you've been doing well. Because not only is it special because it's their birthday, but that also opens up the gates to talking again, right? And even if you weren't top of mind at the time, you are all of a sudden top of mind because they're responding to you. And it's the perfect excuse to reach out to somebody and just say, hey.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know how many gigs I've gotten off of saying happy birthday?
I can imagine a lot.
Fuckload. A fuckload. People I haven't talked to in years get a gig. You know, so it's like so it's like a little hack. And I don't do it to be manipulative. No. I do it because I want to wish somebody a happy birthday on their birthday. Right? Yeah. Like that's just the natural thing of
Everyone knows it feels nice to have someone wish happy birthday on their birthday.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's an important day to people. Like sometimes, you know, it varies with how, you know, as we're getting older, Sean, it might not be as nice. You know what I'm saying? Because you're like, damn, another year down. But it's very important to people on their birthday. And so keeping that top of mind on your end with just the calendar that's separate from your work calendar. Yeah. It's an easy way to reach out and say, hey. Yeah. I love it. I love that hack. It's such a good hack. But it's also personable at the same time. I hate calling it a hack because it sounds manipulative, but
it's a hack.
But it's literally like just saying happy birthday.
And it's really easy to find most people's birthdays anyways, because of social media. Like, if you just check out anyone's Facebook, it's probably there.
Absolutely.
Moving on from that, we kind of talked a little bit about mailing lists earlier, but if you do have a mailing list, now's the time to go through it, update it, make sure you've got things scheduled that are relevant to what you're doing next. Make sure that you have like all the links that you embed in the emails, broadcasts, work are functioning. If you are changing color schemes or whatnot, update your templates to have the right specific colors, have the new promotional images. Yep. And then also like maybe clear out your email list of certain people that aren't responding.
Absolutely.
Or whatnot. Yeah. Because a lot of these places that you can do email lists or whatnot have like a cap on how many people you can email every month. I know MailChimp has that. What's the other one that
I really only know MailChimp, to be honest.
I just had it top of my head. It was one that I've used before. It's like there's a bunch of them out there that you can and find and make just clean it out, manage it. This isn't really a long one. We can move on to the next.
I want to add one thing to that.
Oh, you do?
I want to add one thing. Make sure that your compliance and everything is up to date on those as well. Privacy policy, cookie policy, terms of service, studio policy, if you own a studio and you're listening to this, anything like that, right? Just because that stuff is by law and very important to keep up with consent on these mailing lists, especially. And disclaimers down at the bottom, you know, all those mailing lists have little text, you know, that you can unsubscribe and it explains exactly what they're doing with your information and whatever. So just make sure that's up to date too. Normally you don't have to do this all that often, but it's sometimes good to check in because there have been a lot of compliance shifts with law lately, especially in the EU, that have actually come over to the United States a little bit. So just be on top of things. Just be on top of things and respect people's stuff, you know, information. Yeah. So, yep.
Moving on from that, probably one of the first things that people think of when they think of spring cleaning, just in general. Yep. Applies to music as well. Clean out your wardrobe.
Literally clean out your closet. Yeah. I need to do that actually.
We said cupboard earlier. Now we're back to closet.
Yeah. We were talking about it beforehand, and when Sean brought this up, I was like, oh yeah, I got to do that. So yeah, it's time. It's time. Spring's here. Time to get rid of old, bring in the new. And we do this. We do this naturally at every season change usually. You know, usually winter's not as bad. Yeah. Unless you need some new jeans or something. Because hoodies usually last a while. But like with summer stuff, with t-shirts and stuff, man, I mean, you could go through a couple of those every summer. But make sure that it's up to date though with, you know, what your image is at the time. Especially, you know, if it's a thematic thing around like an album or some kind of social media campaign that you're doing. Just make sure that you have enough of the wardrobe choice that you're using in there and throw out the stuff that's like old and nasty. Like if you have black pants that are turning literally like gray because you washed them so much, it's time to update the black pants, I think. Yeah. And just make sure your image is nice and clean.
Yeah. And it's especially important for artists to literally clean out their closet if they have a drastic tonal shift within their albums. Like if, for example, going back to 21 Pilots, you have the blues and pinks and that poppy kind of vibe to it to like a grungy red and yellow kind of look. You not only want to make sure you represent that well on stage, but you also want to represent it off stage. So that way there's consistency amongst your branding. If someone sees you in public, they see like, oh yeah, I love, like, this is my art. I love what you do, yada, yada. They get recognized for it because you are still not making, it can be toned down, but you're still representing an artist aspect of it. Someone who does this really well, Bring her up every episode, Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Whenever she has a new album, her wardrobe drastically changes on stage. Eras tour.
Yep.
The Eras tour.
Yep.
Fuck. The Eras tour. Every single section has a different dress, and people will cosplay as those eras that they enjoy and have those similar types of dress. But if you look at promotional materials or paparazzi photos of her behind the scenes, she is maintaining that even outside of it.
Yep.
So when someone sees a picture of her in like a People's Magazine or whatever it is, like Vogue or whatever the fuck, I don't know many magazines, or BuzzFeed, let's use a BuzzFeed. If someone sees an article of her and they see what she's dressed like, they can kind of infer what kind of music she makes just by knowing this is an artist, this is what they look like. Oh, this looks like a country artist, so I'm gonna listen to her because I like country. Or oh, this looks a little more folky, so I'm gonna listen to her because it's folk. Oh, this looks very poppy, so I'm gonna listen to that because I like pop music. They are not just representing themselves on stage, but also off stage. So go through your closet, especially if your music is drastically different than your last album or even slightly different. Just make sure it's updated.
Absolutely. Great point. Great point. Last one we have here for more physical stuff, because then we're going to move on to some more computer stuff.
Yep.
Refresh yourself on any contracts you may have. Probably done best with a legal professional if you have one in your back pocket, and you probably should. But if you're doing this solo dolo, definitely be checking in and making sure you're covering all the bases of what you're doing and doing it right. AI can assist you to a point with this, which is really cool. But definitely make sure that the wording that you have in there and everything like rates, like some kind of split fees or whatever the case may be, make sure that all those numbers are updated and correlated with what you need in your set budget or what you're looking to make, right? Because that obviously shifts with not only how good you are and how experienced you are along the way, but also inflation. So, and we talked about inflation before we started today too. We talked about a lot today before we started.
Yes,
we really covered all the bases. Yeah, we were on top of it this morning. So,
but the contracts also goes just back to that. It also dives into more interpersonal contracts. If you are with a label, make sure you understand the guides of your contract.
Yeah, good point.
How can they drop you? Like, what are things that you can't do? Make sure you keep that top of mind. How many songs do you have lined up with them? What are their percentages that they own? What do you own? So maybe you can't send out your songs for licensing opportunities or have to contact the label first. Even if you're like in a band, what is the split within all the band members? We recommend even across the board. If everyone's contributing, no matter how much they contribute, it just makes it way easier and it stops bad blood from growing up. But if you have like a new feature or a songwriter coming in or whatnot, and you're giving certain percentages to them, how does that figure out? What kind of rights do they own? Songwriting rights, publishing rights, that whole regard, because you have to know what you own for what song. So that way, if you do go to sync licensing or send it out for, promotional purposes or try to get it on commercials or whatnot, you know that, hey, we own this entirely. So we can pitch it to sync licensing because we own all the rights. It makes it super easy.
Great point.
Also, keep note of, did you use any sample libraries? Did you sample from another song? Because that affects ownership. Even if you might not think it, oh, I pay for a splice so I can use a sample for free. Some places won't even, like if they know that, they won't touch it because it just makes a whole legal gray area. Even though you can have the rights and you own the rights to use it, it makes syncing a little bit difficult. So keep track of, okay, these people own these songs, they own this right, I own this amount, they own this amount, I own the masters, or they own the masters, or whatever it may be. Refresh yourself on top of it. And also, if you keep yourself refreshed on it, it can allow you to see like, oh, wait a minute, I'm in a bad contract. When we're done with this, they own my song. That's what happened to Taylor Swift. So like being able to stay on top of it of like, okay, maybe I don't want to be in this position, or oh, this is working really good for me. Let me be proactive and be like, hey, this is going well. Do we want to renew it? Do we want to extend this contract or whatnot, whatever it may be?
Totally agree. Excellent points. Excellent points. Yeah. So that leads us to cleaning out the computer.
Back to digital.
This might be one of my favorite things because I do this. I try to do it weekly, at least just like a little bit or touch up some stuff, First one I'm going to talk about is hard drive allocation. Probably not the sexiest thing to talk about ever, but it's very important, especially if you're doing this solo dolo, like I just said, and you're recording yourself and everything. This is really important. And Sean and I definitely have a lot of experience in this aspect of things. Keeping your projects separate from your sample libraries, separate from your backups, and having multiple backups is just so important and so key. Not only is it good organization, but it makes sure things don't get twisted and fragmented onto your drives and things run a little bit more efficiently. So definitely go look through your hard drive allocations. And if you don't even know what a hard drive allocation is, definitely go look up the topic and see how you can maybe set yourself up for a little bit more success. Because if you're running projects and sample libraries off of your computer, you're probably wasting resources on your computer when you don't need to. And not only that, but like you're taking up a lot of fucking space on that computer, and that will slow down the computer over time and make things crash, which would suck in the middle of a great idea or a great take that you're doing. And like I said, this can lead to fragmented drives, which really is like annoying, because if you delete something by accident, that's like a important WAV file that you brought into a session and you don't actually copy it, you just do, it's just like locate at source file or something, whatever it is in Pro Tools, and you go back and look for that file. Pro Tools is not finding that. Even if you change the name, if you put a space in there, if you do anything to that file, it will not find it. And then you got to go back and relocate it. And dude,
manually reconnect the path. It can be a pain.
Dude, not only that, but it's like you're nervous the whole time because you're like, I hope I still have this file somewhere. And that's where good backups come from, right? So keeping up good backup hierarchy is really important. Can I go to this real quick? The rule is 2 physical, 1 on location, 1 off location, and 1 in the cloud. That's the rule for backing up.
Yep.
I follow the rule like 75% of the time. I don't have 1 off location. That's bad of me. I need to do that. And maybe I'll start doing that with these hard drives, right? But I do have a cloud backup. I have 2 physical backups, but I just don't keep 1 off of location, right?
Gotcha.
So, but it's definitely important to be backing up your stuff because you never know. I mean, we were just at the studio last week, and Steve, the owner, told me that they had a brownout like 2 years ago or something like that before you moved across the street, and it fried his board. And so like if it fries a board, it's going to fry the computer, right? Or it's going to fry your hard drive, because that's all. And I just dealt with that, right? I didn't deal with a hard drive. I've dealt with the MIDI instrument or whatever. So definitely really important to have backups, because it would suck to lose your work and miss out on an opportunity if you need to send a TV mix somewhere, need to send an acapella for a remix somewhere. Those are missed opportunities if you don't have that. So just be a little bit more responsible with your files and more diligent with where you put them.
Yeah. Talking about disk allocation, that's what I wanted to jump in and say real quick, is that I've had a recent experience with a client where disk allocation became a big deal. We had our first scheduled session where he was bringing in, he also ran Pro Tools, so he had a lot of it recorded in his home studio. He wanted to come in, re-record a couple things, dial it in, and do a vocal on top of it in my studio. And he's like, okay, cool, I got the session on the hard drive, I'm just going to bring it in, and we'll open it on my computer. Come in, plugged it in, files there, click, I look at it, I'm like, oh, this isn't a copy, is it? You didn't format this or like re-put all the files grouped together within the Pro Tools folder. He's like, no, I didn't. So
that sucks.
We couldn't open the session
on
my computer. So he had to drive 20 minutes home, make a copy of it, and then drive 20 minutes back. And for some studios, most studios, you're still paying for that hour.
You are absolutely paying for that hour.
You are absolutely
Congratulations. You're paying for gas, you're paying for car maintenance, and you're paying for that hour.
Yep, and you're paying the session guy.
So that's a very expensive 20 minutes there and back, right? So not only that, though, I do want to make this disclaimer real quick, too. DAWs are getting better. Not Pro Tools, of course. Why would it be Pro Tools? But you can actually do a collect and save with a lot of these DAWs. I know Ableton you can. So a collect and save allows the computer or the DAW to say, hey, we have all these files from these different places. I'm just going to take that, make a copy, and put it in the folder, so that way you can reopen them without having to worry about where those original files are.
Pro Tools does that.
Does it?
Yeah. It's not called collect and save, but it's when you go to a save copy, you have the check marks of what you want to embed in the file.
Totally. I never do save copy as unless I'm like changing something like drastically in the mix. You know what I'm saying? So I never utilize that feature, because you can do it with audio files, you can do it with plugin hierarchy there, or whatever.
Anything.
And the IO settings and stuff. So which is really nice. I just wish it was just in one button. You know, where you didn't have to take up extra hard drive space, because with Ableton, you just click that one button, collects and saves, shuts down the session.
It brings it into the session.
And you don't have to convert anything, like you do sometimes with a save copy as, especially if you're changing sample rates or something, So I guess it is in Pro Tools. I stand corrected.
To a degree.
But they need to do it better. You know what I'm saying? Because you can do it in Premiere Pro. You can do it in Adobe After Effects, So it's time, or I just want to put that disclaimer out there that, first of all, it's time for Pro Tools to do it easier. And not only that, though, is that is the case sometimes, so you can avoid some heartache along the way. So learn how that feature works and see if it'll work for you. But luckily, Sean and I, we pretty much have our stuff set up where we're copying sources instead of linking to sources. So that's a big thing.
Yeah. All right. I think the last thing we're going to move on to and tackle today, which is a whole topic in and of itself that we're going to not focus too much on today, because we're already running pretty long. Take the time to spring clean and reorganize and get rid of and structure yourself mentally.
Ew.
Why you?
A deep look in, Sean.
What? That's a good thing.
I'm scared of what I'll find.
That's okay. There's many ways you can do this. You can do self-reflection. You can kind of recognize where you're at, the state you're in, what your next goals are. If you want to and do all that, if you need to go talk to a therapist, we always recommend, therapy can be very helpful depending on what you do.
With a licensed professional.
Yes. Not us, because music, we're not going to dive into that. Because music, music is such an emotional and deep thing. And this industry is very not set up for musicians, very cutthroat. Especially at the start, it's going to take a toll on you. It's going to be taxing when you want to make it your career, and then things slow down or speed up or not go your way, or you get people reacting in a way you don't expect them to or whatnot.
Yep.
Take the time to look in on yourself, take care of yourself. A couple quick resources that you can kind of look into, kind of think about that is episode 20 on this podcast. We talk about the seasons of music creation, where there's, spring, summer, fall, and winter, how each one has a growth, a maintaining, a review, and a rest season. Identifying where you're at musically can be, and seeing if, I need to be in a rest season, I've been go, and taking the time to do what you need to do the next steps can really help you feel more rejuvenated, and that you're moving forward in it. And if you, mentally, this also talks about having a plan and having a structure for what you can do forward, so it doesn't seem like you have so much stuff going at you and taking control of your brain and your time at once, because it can quickly be overwhelming with everything we just said. That's absolutely a lot of shit. So being able to take some time and organize and structure what's the most important. We have episode 6, SMART goals and how to create them, that we recommend looking at and figuring out, okay, what are my goals for this upcoming year, upcoming 5 years, 20 years? What's the most important? What can I structure? And then breaking it down into something. I think we talk about rocks and sprints as well, how you can organize it into subcategories, weeks and months and quarters and whatever it is. Just taking some time to do maintenance on your schedule, on yourself, on how you are doing, and having confidence in your music, in your plan, and what's happening moving forward. Very, very important to do. Recommend doing it as kind of a business review is usually quarterly or bi-quarterly. So at least do it yearly. And this could be the time for you to do it.
Yep, absolutely. I don't have anything to add to that. I think you said it beautifully.
All right.
Yeah. Maybe I need to go do that after this episode, since I had that existential crisis.
Maybe. Yeah.
It's about to get very introspective up in here.
But that all being said, that's your spring cleaning episode.
Yeah.
Hopefully this was helpful for you, brought something to your mind that could be beneficial for you to tackle, clean, and refresh moving forward.
Hopefully we cleaned up some things for you.
Hopefully we did. Damn, that was good. Please try not to be over shiny object syndrome though. And jump around.
Definitely a situation that could happen with this.
Yeah. Definitely, because there's a lot of maintenance to do to constantly keep your career going, and it can easily feel overwhelming. But hopefully it brought something to your mind that could help you take that next step in your music career.
Yep. Absolutely.
If you enjoyed listening to this and it was helpful to you, please share it with any other musician, independent artist that you know that could benefit from being a part of this podcast. Here at Music Makers Cookbook, we want to make a living in the music industry, and that really happens when you have a community and a bunch of people who are growing with you.
That's right.
A rising tide raises all ships. Whatever fuck you want to say.
I like that.
So, please share it. You can link them on any of our social medias, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. We technically have a Facebook. It's tied to our Instagram. Or just give them a link to this podcast. Any podcast platform you want to listen to it on. We have specific content specific for each platform. On top of that, if you want to reach out, maybe send us a link to someone for an interview, or just kind of want to tell us what you're doing, get more information about it, some advice or whatnot, you can contact us at podcast@musicmakerscookbook.com, and we will hopefully see it, and we will try to respond as quickly as we can.
Yay.
TikTok sends us a lot of notifications.
Yes, they do.
Sometimes things get buried.
Yes, they do. They really do.
But we'll do our best. On top of that, not just this podcast, you can contact us individually. Brandon, how can they find you, and what do you do?
I'm so sorry. I don't know why I did that. You can find me at studio222recording.com and reach out to me there. I do a lot of hip hop, pop kind of stuff, but I'll really work on anything. I don't give a shit. Just if you have music and you want to show me and you want to work together, by all means, please hit me up. There's a form on my website that you can fill out. And then there's also a back way too if you want to email me as well. So you'll have to find that link. I'm not going to give it out here, but you can find me on the website there, or you can find me on all social media platforms at _Brandon McLeod or at Studio 222 Recording. At _Brandon McLeod is my personal, and obviously the studio one is the Studio 222 Recording one. And you can hit me up there, and I'll try to respond. Usually I'm really bad with DMs and stuff like that, so I prefer the website. But if you need to do it through Instagram, that's totally fine with me. What about you, Sean? Where can we find more about you, and what do you do?
You can find out more about me at swsrecordings.com. I do remote mixing, mastering of the folk, rock, and acoustic genres specifically. I also offer one-on-one artist development coaching, which is basically a more personalized breakdown of anything that we talk about here on this podcast. Just kind of work with you on creating, setting down your goals, what your next tasks are going to be, what is your release method going to be, what kind of content you have to create, yada, yada, yada. Really just making a more personalized structure of how to do it. You can reach out, ask me about that once again on my website through our contact form.
Yep.
Or you can find out any social media, SWS Recordings. I'm not the best at replying to DMs either.
Yeah, DMs are tough.
If you want a quick response, email, website's the way to go. If you want more of a casual, just conversation-based thing, perfectly fine. DMs are the way to go. Just, it might take a little bit of time before we get back to you.
Absolutely.
Yep. That all being said, thank you for listening to this podcast. Thank you for joining us in the kitchen. Let us know in the comments or give us a response about what are the things that you're going to be cleaning out of your cupboard first. What is the next task that you're going to be doing this spring cleaning season? And that being said,
bon appetit.